Hello everyone, and welcome back to Let's Play Magic Knight Rayearth. Before continuing further with the game, it is time to return to the Super Nintendo version in order to take a look at Ascot and Caldina there, now that their arcs are done in the Sega Saturn version. I've been neglecting these comparisons up until now, due to potentially spoiling the game because of how different each version progresses. So, without further ado, let's return all the way back to the Water Temple. Once everything is resolved with Ascot, Umi gives the same speech that we do with the fight with Jiminy. It's a little bit different in terms of translation, but pretty much Ascot is just saying that because he's a summoner, everybody's kind of scared of him and his so-called friends. And the only one who is able to supposedly sympathize with Ascot's problems was Zagat. So that's why he's working with the bad guys. However, he has a change of heart, apologizes, and pretty much just kind of gives up on being a bad guy altogether. And of course, this results on him tagging along with us, like he did when he was Alto. Except, this is the Super Nintendo version, which means that Ascot is now an actual party member who we can use. He's not that bad. He doesn't have a lot of physical strength to him, so you're not using him for actual attacks, but he does offer some defensive spells. But his only real offense is Maxima, his summoning spell. It does a lot of damage, though. But there's a little bit more to Ascot than just getting him as a party member for the next leg of the game. Once you get out of the sea and return to the nearby village, you actually get this little scene here. You get in a regular fight with these flower monsters, who you take down efficiently, and then it turns into saving an old lady. Except, well, the townspeople... yeah, they're not very great. Let's just say, who would want to live with people like this? And I like that Umi calls them out, and then immediately gets her shit kicked in by the old lady who got saved. But it was for good reason. The old woman is pretty much just a spitfire, really. Out of all of the townspeople, this one old woman in this scene is pretty much the best out of everything. If anybody says bad things about you, I'll personally scold them for it. And you bet she will actually do that. Except she's kind of dumb in saying this. I'm looking forward to your return from the Mountain of No Return, which is the next destination for this version. My house is in the back. You know what I mean. And I like that everybody else is just kind of accepting of this old lady who lives with them. It's pretty fantastic. So then once you actually go return to the town and go and see the old lady, before continuing on, she lives in the back here. She's not doing much. I will be waiting for your return from the Mountain of No Return. Well, that's good to see. And then we just kind of continue on. But that's enough for Ascot right now. Let's move on to Caldina. I've kind of been neglecting comparing Caldina with this version because you first meet her in the Wind Temple, and we're not even close to the Wind Temple yet. Upon immediately entering, you get into a fight with her. And you might be noticing we're missing Fu here? Well, simple spoiler, it's the Wind Temple. Fu has wind magic. It's her temple. And if you remember what happened with Umi, she went into a trance and went into the thing by herself. pretty much that's gonna happen with Fu as well. It's the pattern for this game. Now, in terms of this boss fight, even though it's 2-to-1 now, it's still pretty easy because Caldina isn't really all that challenging. I kind of think of Caldina as like a Final Fantasy dancer job class. Pretty much not great in the physical department or in the magic department, and mainly goes against like status effects and buffs and debuffs. She only has 3 attacks she really uses against you, involving Distraction, which is Confusion, Fossilize, which I'm really at a loss in terms of what it actually does, because fights don't go on for enough time in order to actually make it worthwhile. But other than that, you just kind of just wail magic on her. But yeah, and then she just kind of kicks up her feet and stomps on you. In terms of the magic in this game, I prefer it more than in the Sega Saturn version because there's a lot more variety to it. Especially now when you have like 8 to 10 magic spells. And then later on you get the super magic, and that's just incredible. That's pretty much it for Caldina, though. And then she'll kind of just poof away and continue on into the temple, which Hikaru and Umi will also do in order to meet up with Fu. She'll also freeze in place if you don't move. Now, I'm going to be skipping over what happens in the Wind Temple until we actually get to it, but let's just say it's very easy to figure out that things get resolved nice and cleanly. Also, Caldina switches sides a lot easier, pretty much saying that we have a goal when Zegat doesn't, in her eyes. That's pretty much it there. And then when you get off where the Wind Temple is, you get a choice. Unlike the other characters that you can recruit in the game as your 4th party member, Caldina is at a price. I also like her theme in the Super Nintendo version. It's pretty exotic and fits well her character, but she requires 30,000 gold in order to recruit, and you can just simply say yes or no. I'm gonna say both here just for dialogue's sake, but yeah, I don't know really why, because there's really not much dialogue. And to be honest, 30,000 gold is not a lot, especially when there's very little use for gold in the game, because unless you're going to be going and through all of your healing items and whatnot, just all the time and heading back to the town in order to restock more, that's always going to be the case. So yeah, 30,000 gold, not a lot of money. The other kick in the teeth, though, is that Caldina is not the... In my opinion, she's actually kind of the worst party member out of the people that you get. Pretty much is because comparing her to the boss fight that you had, that's pretty much what you get as a party member. You pretty much get a dancer. Her main stat that she has is that she's really quick. Like, her agility is through the roof. But in terms of battle, she's not all that helpful. Her attack is really poor, but her magic isn't all that good either. Like I said, she doesn't really have any offensive things, but she does have Cresta like Ascot did, which is for protecting others. And then she also has her Fossilize ability, but pretty much all you're going to be using her for is for Mirage, which is her Confusion spell. Now, this doesn't work against bosses, obviously, but in terms of getting rid of the regular enemies, it makes things a lot easier, I suppose, when they're hitting themselves instead of you. and you get her for the next section of the game. But when you actually get Caldina, or just pass her by, you can actually go back to, well, the old lady, and you'll find Ascot in her house. Things are very lively now that Ascot's friends are here. But yeah, he makes a nice little home here for himself. You also, if you go and talk to him, you get the Orb of Maxima, which means that you can actually use Maxima from Ascot whenever you wish. I believe you only have a certain number of uses, and then you have to go back in order to replenish them. But he found a nice place for himself, and that's good. Yeah, you only get 20 uses. Right down there. It's pretty much like Ferrio's earring. And that's going to be it for Ascot. However, what about Caldina? I'm just going to show this off because after you have Caldina's section all done with and she eventually leaves, you'll find her in another town. I don't believe it's the same town. I believe it's west. But you'll find her dancing her heart out for all of the men in the village. At least they got that kind of comparison down nice and neat. But if you ever wanted to listen to her song a little bit more, her theme anyways, then this is the place to go. So that's pretty much it in terms of Ascot and Caldina for the Super Nintendo version. At least the stuff I'm going to show off for this video, because, well, we haven't gotten to the Wind Temple yet, and when we do, there's going to be a couple more things in terms of Caldina that we'll show off. But that's going to be it for now. See you next time, everyone!